PlayStation 1 era was a golden age for JRPGs. It was a time when developers were experimenting, stories were becoming more cinematic, and players were being transported to worlds bigger and more emotional than ever before. It's the generation that gave us some unforgettable characters, amazing soundtracks, and the kind of storytelling that made you sit back and just feel something. So whether you were drawn in by the epic adventures, heartbreaking moments, or even the turn-based battles that tested your strategy, the PlayStation 1 had it all. So in today's video, we're talking about my top 10 PlayStation 1 JRPGs. It's going to be a fun video. I have a stack of games because when I was writing this list, I was like, oh my gosh, I actually have every single game here that I'm going to be mentioning today. So I look forward to sharing with you. Before we get to that, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment your thoughts down below. And let's get to the first one, which is going to be Legend of Dragoon. The Legend of Dragoon is one of those games that might not have redefined the JRPG genre, but it definitely carved out a loyal fan base thanks to how interesting and unique it felt. The combat system mixed traditional turn-based combat with real-time mechanics. You had to press buttons in rhythm to pull off some stronger attacks, known as the addition system. It was simple to learn, but really satisfying once you got the hang of it. Then there was the Dragoon transformations, full-on cinematic sequences where basically your characters turned into these powerful legendary characters, the Dragoons. It really gave every battle a sense of spectacle that was really, at home on the PlayStation 1. The story of the game follows Dart. Something happens with his hometown. It's destroyed by this mysterious monster, and along the way, he's joined by these characters, finding out the why of the game. The plot definitely leans into more melodrama at times, but that's kind of part of its charm. It feels earnest and grand in that classic late 90s 2000 kind of way. And when you combine all that with some of the lore and history that's present in the world, it really gives you a game that feels epic in scope. Aside from that, I love some of the music of the game. Nothing really truly wore on my ears as I played through the 4 discs of this game. It was a really wonderful experience and really balances well with that tragedy and heroism, those kind of themes from the game. And sure, it's not as polished or as well paced as something like Final Fantasy VII or maybe even 8, but it's got heart. And that's why a lot of fans still campaign for a remake or remaster to this day. It's a game with some rough edges, but also one full of ambition, and that's exactly what makes it so memorable. Okay, next up is Wild Arms. This is a good one. Sometimes when you think of JRPGs, you think of sci-fi and fantasy and all that stuff that kind of makes those things feel more grand in a sense of scale. But Wild Arms has its own unique twist. A JRPG set in a Western-inspired world filled with guns and magic and ruins of ancient civilizations. It's very interesting, and the tone of Wild Arms is both adventurous and melancholic in some ways. You're exploring a dying world and trying to uncover its lost past while, of course, saving it from destruction. The game's combination of steampunk stuff and Wild West motifs and JRPG storytelling, honestly, is one of the reasons why it's still a standout game today. The gameplay was traditional, but it was also very well done. You had some interesting dungeons, satisfying turn-based combat, and characters that brought something unique to the table. And as for the story, it's one of those games where the emotional, undercurrent kind of sneaks up on you as the game unfolds. And of course, we can't talk about Wild Arms without mentioning the music. I mean, it's so good. It's kind of that whole spirit of the game, and the music really just complements it perfectly. Wild Arms may not have had the visual flair of some of the PlayStation 1 contemporaries, but it's got something arguably more valuable. It's got a lot of personality, it's got a lot of heart, and it's a world that's going to linger in your memory long after you finish the game. Okay, after Wild Arms, we have Star Ocean, the second story. Love this game. This arguably is one of the most ambitious JRPGs of its time. It does have that sci-fi and fantasy. It's a really great contrast to Wild Arms, and it did it in a way that few other games dared to attempt. It starts with a single premise. A young man named Claude accidentally beams down to an underdeveloped planet, but quickly expands into this interesting intergalactic adventure filled with politics and mystery. And what made it so memorable, though, was the dual protagonist system, letting you experience a story from either Claude or Raina's perspective, each offering different dialogue and different relationships and even endings as well. So this is really a game that you want to play through maybe even more than twice to really get the full scope of things, because there are some choices and characters that you can miss along the way. And I love the battle system here as well. So instead of traditional turn-based fights, you had fast-paced real-time combat where positioning and timing matters. It made every encounter feel dynamic and alive, especially compared to some of the JRPGs of that era. So combine that with deep item creation system and over, I don't even know how many endings of the game this has. I mean, you really just had something that encouraged replayability like no other. And musically, I love the score of this game. This was done by Motoi Sakuraba. I mean, it's got energetic battle themes, great town music, and some beautiful melodies that are really just going to stick with you. It's a game that really just captured the feeling of what a JRPG is all about. It's such a great game. Next game I know a lot of you love, so let's talk about Breath of Fire 4. Breath of Fire 4 is one of those games that really has built a devoted following over the years. The game follows two different storylines that eventually collide, and really it's just one of the most striking and thought-provoking endings of any JRPG on the PlayStation 1. I also love the really unique painterly art style, and it looks so good even today, especially if you're playing this on like original hardware and a CRT. It's just beautiful to look at. Every background feels alive, almost like a moving watercolor painting, and the expressive character sprites really just give any moment throughout the game some really interesting and unique emotional weight. Turn-based combat is super satisfying, encouraging smart use of magic, combinations, and formation tactics. And there's also this quiet sadness throughout the game as well. I mean, it's about gods and mortals, and it's also about what it means to exist and to endure, suffering and pain and all that stuff. It's very thought-provoking. And the soundtrack, I mean, it's stellar. From the overworld themes to the boss music, Breath of Fire nails the emotional tone at every turn. It's a little slower paced than some of the other JRPGs of the era, but it's that deliberate pacing that gives it, that contemplative mood that's rare even today. Maybe not the flashiest title, but man, it's got a lot of soul to it. Next up, you either love it or you hate it. I loved it as a kid. Do I love it as much now? Yeah, I still do. Final Fantasy VIII. Few games split fans quite like Final Fantasy VIII. It followed this global phenomenon that was Final Fantasy VII, but instead of trying to replicate it, Square went in a completely different direction. It was romantic, it was moody, and sometimes abstract. It was about growing up, it was about love, it was about destiny, and the game's protagonist, Squall, starts off as cold and reserved, but over the course of the story, we watch him slowly open up, and thanks to the influence of Renoa and all these other friends, he just becomes this really great protagonist. It's a coming-of-age tale wrapped inside this weird time compression, sorceress-driven sci-fi epic. Battle system introduced the junction mechanic, which lets you link magic directly to your stats. Again, this is very divisive. Some find it cumbersome, others find it brilliant how customizable it makes each character. But what really defines Final Fantasy VIII is its atmosphere. The visuals were groundbreaking at the time, the CG cutscenes still hold up really well, and I still love to rewatch them today. And the world feels really grounded, but yet still surreal. I mean, it blends this unique take of modern cities and military academies with some other fantasy and sci-fi elements along the way that feels very distinct and unique. And then there's the score done by Nobuo Uematsu. I mean, Eyes on Me, the game's vocal theme was the first for the series and really captured that emotional heart of the story. Overall, I could argue that Final Fantasy VIII is the best score in Final Fantasy, but whether you love it or not, Final Fantasy VIII dared to be different. It's a game that feels deeply personal, and that's exactly what makes it unforgettable. Next up is a game that I've only played for the first time this year, and I tell you what, I was really captivated by it. Suikoden 2. Don't ask me how much I paid for this. If there's one PS1 JRPG that fans never stop championing, it's Suikoden 2. This game is a masterclass in storytelling with one of the most politically complex and emotionally charged narratives of that era. You play as a young hero caught in a brutal war between neighboring nations, and the way that it handles friendship and betrayal and leadership is genuinely something very powerful. Few games hit as hard emotionally, especially in its depiction of your friendship with Joey or Joey. I never knew how to pronounce that, but I think it's pronounced Joey, which can lead to multiple outcomes, some of which might just break your heart. What makes Suikoden 2 so special is its world building. You can recruit up to 108 characters, each with their own unique backstories and personalities, and many of them contribute meaningfully to the story or to your army. That really just improved on that system that Suikoden 1 laid out and just made everything feel more real and more believable. And because of that, the world feels alive. It feels like you're part of something bigger than just a simple single adventure. The tactical war battles and castle building system honestly only really just deepen that immersion. And add in beautiful sprite-based art and one of the best soundtracks of the generation, and you've got a true masterpiece here. Suikoden 2 isn't just a great JRPG, it's one of the finest examples of emotional storytelling and world building in video games, period. Now, before we get any further, don't forget to hit that subscribe button because almost 90% of the people that watch my channel on the regular are not subscribed. And if you want more content on the daily, check out my Instagram page where I'm always posting some interesting retrospectives, videos, and other things as well. Following Suikoden 2 is one of my favorite games of all time, Grandia. When I tell you that Grandia is one of the most joyful Saturday morning cartoon games ever made, I mean it. This is really just a great game at its heart about adventure and having fun with your friends. You play as Justin, a boy who dreams of becoming a great explorer, and what follows is this very interesting globe-trotting journey filled with discovery and wonder. There's a contagious optimism in its storytelling that sets it apart from some of the more darker, more brooding contemporaries of the PlayStation 1 era. And the battle system, when I tell you, it is so unique and stand out. It's one of the best of its era. It's super fast, it's strategic, and deeply satisfying. Its use of a visible action bar manages to turn every encounter into something that feels dynamic. You can interrupt enemy attacks or chain combos with perfect timing. It really gives you a sense of control and rhythm that few games matched and still try to match. And musically, the soundtrack captures the spirit of adventure perfectly. You have some bright, sweeping, and emotional orchestral things. Overall, Grandia might not have had the budget that a Final Fantasy game had, because I know some people kind of build this as a Final Fantasy killer. It's certainly not. It's something just different. It has something equally valuable. Got a lot of soul. It's a timeless story about chasing dreams and growing up and believing in the unknown. Coming in at number 3 on the list is Final Fantasy IX. This game was a love letter to the series past. A return to Fantasy Kingdom's crystal lore and kind of lighthearted whimsy after 2 games set in more modern worlds. Zidane, Garnet, Vivi, and Steiner make up one of the most charming casts in any Final Fantasy ever. And the story beautifully blends tragedy, humor, and hope. It's really just a game about identity and mortality, and also finding joy in living even when faced with loss or when you know you're running out of time. The ATB battle system was also refined to near perfection here. The equipment-based ability learning system gave players a reason to experiment constantly, and the world of Gaia is one of the most richly realized in the series, with every location from Alexandria to Lindblum bursting with life and character. And that soundtrack, man, honestly, I cannot speak highly enough of the work that Uematsu did here. It's one of the best works here that he's ever done. Melodies of Life, the main theme, still gives me chills decades later. So Final Fantasy IX might not have pushed boundaries like its predecessors, but it really captured the soul of the series perfectly. It was a nostalgic masterpiece that still remains timeless. Next up at number 2 is Xenogears. Gosh, I love this game so much. Xenogears is one of the most bold, complex JRPGs ever made. It mixes mechs, martial arts, philosophy, and psychology into this story that's equal parts tragic and transcendent. Here you play as Fei Fong Wong, a man haunted by a mysterious past, caught in a conflict that spans generations or maybe even reincarnations. Won't spoil it, but man, it's pretty deep. The game's narrative here is super deep. Blending themes of trauma, identity, and the human condition in a way that few games dared at that time, and honestly still kind of they still don't reach the highs the same way that Xenogears did. And I love the combat system here as well. It's just as unique as the story. You have these traditional turn-based elements with fighting game combo style inputs. Every battle feels cinematic, and when you get your first gear, the game's massive mechs, it takes things to a whole new level. The pacing and the tone shift constantly from small town mysteries to existential revelations. It's just all unpredictably part of Xenogears' genius. And even with the famously rushed second disc, Xenogears remains a storytelling triumph. The music by Yasunori Mitsuda is beautiful. It really just perfectly captures the game's emotional intensity. It's not just one of the best PlayStation 1 RPGs ever, it's one of the most ambitious games ever made. Now, before we get to number 1, I want to give a special shout out to Final Fantasy Tactics. I'm not putting it on the list today because, well, I'm working my way through it right now with the Ivalice Chronicles remaster. So I want to give a shout out. I know some of you might say, where's Tactics? I'm playing it. I'm going to have some super in-depth thoughts soon once I actually finish the game. So let's get to number 1. You probably know by now, Final Fantasy VII. Of course, number 1, Final Fantasy VII. This is the game that defined an entire generation of JRPGs, from unforgettable opening shots of Midgar to, the emotional high points of the story. Final Fantasy VII was a perfect storm of innovation, storytelling, and style. Cloud's journey from aloof mercenary to hero burdened by identity and guilt remains one of the most iconic character arcs ever. The turn-based combat, the materia system, and the massive world were all revolutionary for the time, but what really made Final Fantasy VII special was its atmosphere. A cyberpunk world full of moral questions, corporate greed, and human resilience. The characters felt real, the stakes felt high in every moment, from some of the, twists and turns at the end of disc 1. If you still haven't played it, I don't want to spoil it, to the final showdown with Sephiroth. It just left an unbelievable mark on me. And probably my favorite score of Uematsu's career here. You've got One Winged Angel. It's a cultural touchstone. You've got Aerith's themes, Tifa's theme, like opening bombing mission. Everything here is just super iconic. Final Fantasy VII wasn't just a JRPG. It was a phenomenon that brought the genre to mainstream. Even today, its impact can be felt in every game that dares to tell a big emotional story. So there you have it. That's my top 10 PlayStation 1 JRPGs. I'm lucky enough to own all of them. It was just a coincidence that I had every single game that I was writing on the list. And these are games that have made such a huge impact on my life and really just shaped the way that I, enjoy stories and kind of my tastes as well. So I would love to know your thoughts on the video. I would love to know what your top 10 would be as well. So don't forget to leave your thoughts down below. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you guys in another video next week. Bye-bye.